Okay, first, talk about Georgia Tech, and then we'll talk about us, and then I'll take any questions you guys might have. I mean, obviously, Georgia Tech, coming off of kind of a 3-game skid themselves, played a great game in which they scored 59 points against Syracuse. That offense, got it back, has it rolling once again, and as a matter of fact, it's one of the top offenses in the country as far as rushing offense. Thad Lee has done a great job running their offense. Coach Johnson has been at Georgia Tech and has been known for that type of offense and the style, that they play. Defensively, they're a good defensive football team. One of the things that I think going into a game when the questions are always asked about when you're playing an option team is about, is it assignment football? How do you practice it and things like that? And with our defensive staff, with Coach Tenuta, have an ability to play it against, a style or system like that in the past, has, knows how we want to practice. You practice with a Nerf football. You do different things to make sure you get a lot of quality reps. You probably draft somebody to be an athletic type of quarterback, and it could be a receiver, it could be anyone, to make, to give the kind of looks that, you would see from an athletic quarterback like they have in Lee. And then in looking at, you said talk about some of the keys for the game, particularly for this one, is I went back and we looked at the time of possession. Georgia Tech is number 2 in the country in hanging on to the ball, I believe almost 35 minutes. In contrast, we're 5th in the country in hanging on to the ball, but only scoring 22 points. So Georgia Tech is averaging 36 points a game, and we're holding on to the ball, but we're not scoring. We're scoring 22 points there. So in looking at us and looking at them, the time of possession is critical. When they have the ball, and they're such a ground-oriented team that they grind up the clock, they do a great job on 3rd downs, and they do a lot of things to keep the ball moving, and then they score points. It's going to be critical for us to make sure that when we do have the ball, and we have it because it's documented as having a significant amount of time in the game, that we have to translate that into points, and that's one of the things that kind of stood out. So I guess again we'll talk about Georgia Tech, but just wanted to mention those things. As far as we're concerned, again, we have to put 4 quarters of football together. I mean, obviously you saw 2 quarters, 22 points, long run, long pass, screen, very good defense. So you saw those things that we're very capable of doing, but weren't able to sustain that in the latter quarters, particularly in the 3rd quarter when they had those opportunities there. One of the other things is, we are committed to winning. We're committed to making. No one wants to win more than I do, being here. No one wants to win more than the players. And I think if you ask our guys, and you'll have a chance, I don't know who you're talking to today, that the attitude about that and the aspect of preparing and practicing to win is still as high as it's ever been because of the opportunities and because of the teams we're about to play. We're about to play some really good teams going down the stretch here. So that's critically important, is understanding that everyone wants to do well. We want to find ways to get the ball to people. We want the plays, the formations, or whatever it may be, is to do those things and make sure that we give ourselves opportunities. And then, like I said, the players' approach to this and the coaches' approach is, let's go. We got 5 games. The most important game is this game. I believe this game is the homecoming game as well. So we know there'll be a lot of alumni coming back and a lot of eyes fixed on Charlottesville once again. So again, that's very, very important to us. But those are some of the things, whether it's us or getting ready to go into this game against Georgia Tech, some of the processes and some of the thoughts and some of the issues that that we have to be concerned with. And with that, I'll take any questions.
I seem to remember that a couple of years ago you used your holder as the kicker for, I mean, as the quarterback?
Actually, Jacob Hodge is our GA right now.
Can you, that's what I was going to ask you, can you use a GA to do that?
You know, that's a great compliance question, and I'll ask that question. And the biggest thing out of that probably is physically, is he able to do that, because he hadn't been training like he would be if he was a player. But we're going to try to find something, you know, very similar to an athletic guy that can run and do a lot of things. But Hodge did run that style of offense in high school.
Mike, you guys have had a number of games in the last 2 years, and the coaches are different, so that doesn't seem to be the thread. But where you guys came out like gangbusters on offense, you know, Louisiana Tech last year, Duke this year, Ball State this year, came out like gangbusters. And then all of a sudden, it was just like dead. I'm sure you look for answers to that. What do you find, and is there any calling off on the coaching staff's part of, you know, backing it off a little bit, or, you know, what is it?
That's a good question, and you know, always the one that you continue to try to answer and monitor. But you know, coming out fast and playing with enthusiasm and passion, I mean, those things are critically important. And then sustaining it for 4 quarters, that, you know, that's the issue, you know, for us right now is sustaining that level, you know, for a long period of time, because you know, it is about 4 quarters. It's not just about 2 quarters or 3.5 quarters. And, you know, things you do to address it and talk about it and bring it to the players' attentions and bring it to the leadership's attention about, hey, listen, we need that energy. You know, we can only do so much from the sideline, you know, looking out there to you. A lot of it has to be self-motivated. It has to permeate throughout the team. But, you know, playing with that type of passion and emotion is very critical. It's something that, you know, particularly this past game, that we did not have, you know, in the capacity to help us in the last 2 quarters, and it's something we definitely have to have with this game coming up and the type of style of team we're playing.
Can you tell on the side? I mean, that would seem to be fun for players to come out and sling it all over the place and go downfield and score points and get the crowd into it. Can you tell on the sidelines when it's going away? And how much of it is maybe a defensive adjustment?
Well, during the course of a game, you can always tell if a bad thing happens or negative plays happen. And, you know, human psychology is just kind of, you know, how you react to that. And if it continues to happen, you know, a couple times, multiple times, then, you know, getting that psyche back up, getting that energy back up, that's the challenge. And so, you know, anything that happens from a negative standpoint, lost yardage, fumbles, you know, bad snaps, I mean, that's something that just adds to, you know, the exasperation or you know, guys trying too hard or whatever it may be. But the focus is to try to get it back. You know, bad play happens, and we got to bounce back and move on to the next play. And that's the challenge and the focus that's always presented to the players, and we have to do a better job of responding to that.
Mike, Jake McGee's coming in later this afternoon. Can you just talk about the year he's having and with all the success he has enjoyed so far? Are you guys trying to even expand his role and trying to maybe design even more stuff to get him up?
I believe that, you know, when you go and you find who your best players are, the best playmakers are, that if we had to talk about that Jake would be one of those guys. It's no doubt that he has a very unique skill in catching the ball, 2 hands, 1 hand, over the shoulder, up high, whatever it is, and he does a great job of doing that. I believe that he would tell you that he's working on his run blocking. You know, that's one of the things he wanted to do, is gaining weight and sustaining that weight. It's also unfortunate that, you know, during the course of this season that he's had kind of these nagging injuries, you know, shoulders, knees, and things like that. But Jake he's a gamer. He's a guy that, you know, whether you go back to his high school playing career, basketball, football, you know, playing with Russell Wilson those days, that he, you know, he's one of the guys that you can count on to make plays, because, and he's doing it here now. And he is a good player, and he'll be a great player before he's done, you know, here. And I know that he's not where he wants to be from a physical standpoint. And a lot of times, at this point of the season, everybody's nicked up, everybody's hurt. Again, I refer back to us, particularly defensive with Brent Urban and Trey Nicholson being hurt, everybody's nicked. But you'll talk to Jake and you'll see there's an immense amount of pride that he takes in his performance and with his team. And I think he'll be, when he's done playing here, he'll be a very, very, very good player.
On those same lines, we talked about a little bit last night, but tight ends and backs have been basically the main targets a little bit in the passing game of this offense. Is that more a product of what you guys are trying to do, or is that part of the receivers maybe haven't developed as you like? Obviously, you've made some changes there already throughout the season.
We're looking for development, from the receivers. You have to be able to go deep with your receivers. Receivers are there to catch the ball, to block, and do other things that that can help your offense, the overall offense. And that is an area that we got to continue to keep working on and improving. We are getting production from a guy like Kevin Parks, who's doing a nice job. Had an opportunity to play Tyquan Mizell a little more, get more touches. He was explosive there. So, the receiving part of it has to improve. So Tim Smith did a great job on a long catch, but we want to make sure we continue to keep using the receivers and they can be an advantage to our offense.
You mentioned that Georgia Tech has the offense rolling again. They played a team on Saturday that had never seen them before. You've seen them, Tanud has seen them, your players, and how much is being familiar with that offense help going into Saturday?
It's a large part of having played against this offense, because then you understand the splits. You understand, the fullback is directly behind the quarterback and how hard hitting that midline dive is. Players understand the terminology of, dive, quarterback, pitch, when a guy's loading outside defender or he's arcing. So the terminology is something that the guys understand, and having played against it, been against it for some time now, even with the defensive staff, there's a familiarity with it, and that's what we're hoping on. That like the experience that happened 2 years ago when they came up here to Charlottesville, that a lot of those guys are still here that are playing, and hoping that we can take that experience plus with the knowledge that John has with the staff, and then get imparted to the players and come up with a game plan for that.
And at the risk of sounding clueless, which is not all that unusual for me, a Nerf football?
Yeah, it's so you don't have to worry about the snap, the center snap to the quarterback and the ball being fumbled and people worried about stepping on the ball or whatever. Nerf football, it can bounce all over the place, and even if the quarterback doesn't have the Nerf, you still go to the mechanics of running the play. So you're not trying to just hang on to the football, because that can be the most, you can waste more time in a practice trying to simulate an offense that's being run by guys that do it every day, do it well. But the snap to the quarterback, if it's not there, then you continue through the mechanics and you practice the plays, dive, quarterback, pitch, and those things. That's why I use the Nerf.
We've used that in the past.
Yep.
Stay engaged and get through it mentally, but what about the players? Specifically David and others, is there a group of players you're looking at to help you get through adversity on the field and even at this point in the season?
Well, particularly the players that, David is one of them, but also the 6 seniors that we have, playing, that have been went through the 2011 season, guys that are there, gone through that, and pulling along some of these younger players as well. You're just dealing with adversity and how to overcome it. And as I said, you'll have a chance to talk to, again, if you're talking to Jake today and whoever else it may be, you can ask those specific questions, but they're highly in tune to making sure that, the attitudes and the effort and things is on the uptick, because with 5 games left and opportunities there still present itself. So, there are guys, and not only David, but there are guys that have definitely stepped up.
Like when you're going through a stretch like this, how does it affect recruiting, not only with players you're still out there pursuing, but with kids who committed from other schools are presumably going after now?
Well, that's a great question. it's one of those things, we had a recruiting weekend. We always have recruits come up to games and have guys that come, you know, to make their official visits. Other sports do it as well. And in the midst of seeing what happened on Saturday and how disappointing that was, there was positive news that came out of that weekend, that an individual who spent time with the coaches, with the players, with our people that support the program, said, I see what you guys are doing, and yes, I want to be a part of it, I want to come. So that's important. It's significant to know that there are still young men out there that believe in what's going on and are committed to that, and are committed players. You know, that, as you said, I'm quite sure that there's still schools that are still out there, and, you know, trying to influence them in one way or the other, but it was a positive to you know, after this particular weekend, for a young man and his family that spent time with us, said yes.
Mike, you've been a big proponent of David's leadership, and I'm not throwing him under the bus, but just as a curiosity to me. There was a play, and I think it was the third quarter. I think it was like 2nd and 10, and he rolled left and had lots of space in front of him. You guys hadn't gotten a first down in 5 series in a row. And instead of running where he probably would have gotten a first down, he threw it to E.J. Scott in coverage. And E.J., it was a good pass, and E.J. dropped the ball. In that situation, with 5 straight 3-and-outs, would you like the leader of your team to tuck the ball and run and say, damn it, we're getting a first down?
I'd like the leader of the team to make the play that's there, that's called upon. And if EJ was covered, then what you say would be correct, pull the ball and run and get the first down. If EJ was open and the ball was thrown and the ball was dropped, then that's a whole other issue. But the leadership part of that, or the decision-making part of that, I think was the correct decision.
And after the game, some guys say, you know, they talk about, you know, we need to execute better, we need to do this better, we need to do that. And Henry Coley was a lot more specific, kind of didn't call people out specifically, but called certain failures out, and just said, you know, we need to stop doing that. Kevin Parks talked about how it was kind of embarrassing to give up 35 straight points to Duke. Do you need more players like those last 2 guys to get really ticked off and speak up, or is that not what you guys are looking for?
No, you always want players to hold other players accountable, you know, for their actions. You know, coaches being accountable to coaches, coaches to players, players to coaches. You know, you want people to speak up when things aren't going to plan, when things aren't going right. And that's part of, you know, that's part of being a good team leader or a teammate, is you can't idly sit by and just watch other, you know, things go on and on and on without speaking up. And I think Henry, along with Kevin and others, are disappointed that, you know, maybe some of the things keep happening, and we're saying, listen, if we're going to turn this thing, we got to turn this thing in a direction that you guys know how to respond. And so him saying what he said, you know, you can see that being said by a handful of guys, but more guys, and rightfully so. So when you have guys that are willing to speak up and speak out, and you're right, not calling anybody out, but just calling it as it is, that it has to turn. We have to take accountability with the ball and what we do with it, how we tackle, whatever, you know, whatever those aspects are. Then it's okay to talk about the things that need to be done.
Right, there's Georgia Tech's offense, you mentioned the ball control, things like that, but their defense has been pretty exceptional this year. They made that switch from that 3-4 to 4-3 middle last year, now back to it, you know, still in that 4-3. What's different about them defensively, you know, this season, you know, compared to last week, basically they were still in that 3-4?
You're right. They've moved around, you know, a little bit more. Atachu is a guy that's very, very active. I think their leading tackler is one of their DBs, but, you know, plays close to the, you know, to the line of scrimmage. I think they're 4th or 5th in the ACC in total defense. As I said before, they're giving up, I believe, 19 points a game. So right now, their defense is playing in lockstep with their offense in terms of offense, ball control, ground game, 36 points per game, and then when their defense goes in, then they're playing well enough to limit teams, to points, and, doing a nice job on the rushing yardages and things like that. So their change, their style, philosophy suits them. It suits their offense that, again, is number 2 in the country in controlling the ball.
I guess also back to that game last year, I remember afterward, a lot of talk, I think you mentioned about, when you face that option, it's not so much that front seven, but even the back four has to deal with, different looks as well. Obviously, they were young last year. How do you see them, facing it this year? And it might be some new personnel there anyway. You might still be young on the back end, facing that for the first time.
Yeah, there's a high probability of that too, young on the back end again. But again, it's the assignment-oriented part of it is something that's critical. You're right, your secondary players have to discern the run versus the pass. And what Georgia Tech is doing more this year than in the past is throwing the ball downfield, play action passes off their running game. So we have to be on top of that.
Early in the game the other day, there was a pass to Darius Jennings high, went off his fingertips, and I guess may go down as a drop. But and I think you've conceded that David's accuracy at times has tended to build it up and down. He had a lot of overthrows. What are you seeing from him from a technical standpoint? I know you mentioned that he needs to be more accurate.
Well, one of the things is just, the release factor when you're releasing the ball, just knowing that, anticipating routes and where they are, and, throwing over coverages and things like that. And again, David works on that every day with Steve Fairchild. And he knows it's a point of improvement that must be made. You don't want to overthrow receivers because obviously, it affects, the way the game is flowing. And as far as an area of improvement, then that is one that he continues to need improvement on.
Mike, you mentioned the attitude still being really good among the players. I wondered how you gauge that. There's a leadership council. Do you meet with them formally, informally, or there's certain guys you may go to sort of get the pulse of what the team is, where they're at?
Sure, we have, the captains and we have the leadership council and guys, I ask about how guys are going, what's going on, how's the team responding. Because you always have coaches meetings, but players meetings, players being consistent with other players, that's always important. And to gauge, the attitude, the atmosphere about those players is vitally important. And our guys have been doing that, and they stay strong and committed into making sure we stay together as a team.
You've received several votes of confidence from your superiors. Is it still kind of awkward to have people question your job security or future?
I believe that I'm the right man for the job. I believe that the process that's going on here is one that, although painstakingly slow, is a process that will be successful. I'm very appreciative that administrators and people that make those type of decisions have the utmost confidence in me. I'm 100% committed to winning, to producing a product that's on the field of guys that want to win, to learn how to win. I know how to win. And so I'm always excited about the challenge that presents itself of whether there's negativity or whatever it may be. It's to embrace the adversity, embrace it, look it in the eye, and tell the players, let's go. Because the only thing you can do is get ready for the next game, is get ready for the next challenge. And if they see that in me, if they see that in the coaches, then they have an opportunity themselves to show that when they play on the field when we start moving forward here.
Coach, we often talk offense, defense, but there's a third phase to the game. Can you talk about a little bit what you're seeing from Coach Lewis in that unit, and maybe specifically the punt return game? What do you think of the decision-making, the blocking, that type of thing?
The special teams part of it, actually the punt return part, other than the one decision of catching the one and then trying to go, Tim trying to run lateral and then go vertical, you don't want to do that. I mean, obviously, he's fast, but he's not that fast. You can't run out of issues sometimes. Sometimes you just got to catch the ball and go vertical as prescribed by the type of return that's set up. Darius Jennings is doing a nice job in returning kickoffs. There's a couple kickoffs, not only in this game, but in previous games, and he's done a nice job hitting the hole. He's back there with Tyquan Mazzell, and it seems like all the kicks are going to Darius, but it's one of those things, you see positive things in that standpoint. Alex Velezanek, I get that right, Doug? It continues to, although, there's a missed field goal, but as far as his punting, handling the ball, being athletic enough on the fake punt to make things happen there. So there are signs of improvement, and you see what's going on, and we'll continue to keep doing that. The 2-point play, part of a special teams issue. So, and probably the biggest surprise out of everyone is Dylan Sims. No one asked about, when Ian Fry went out, they were worried about the field goals and all that, but Dylan Sims has done a really nice job of handling our kickoff duties. I mean, in fact, I think he had 3 touchbacks in this game. And so that's a type of improvement and progress that, that you see. And it's a walk-on guy that came in and said, here's your role, and he's embraced it. And again, I'm proud of him. He's done a very nice job of handling that chore.
Mike, what was going on with Luke on Saturday? The snaps were going all over the place, on the ground, over Watford's head.
There was 2 or 3. Obviously that one was a significant one, and just said he double gripped it and just couldn't get it back there. That's not indicative of Luke, and not to be funny, but that was a fluke, and so I'm quite sure his snaps from this point on will be on target, because he takes a lot of pride in what he does, and being able to play guard and be a center. He takes pride in being able to snap the ball back there and not cause any issues.
Talked about Darius Jennings and Tim Smith playing special teams role for you, as their receiving role was, I would say, I guess, a little diminished is what it was before. What is their confidence level right now? I mean, those 2 in particular, guys that were veteran guys coming into this season, I'm sure they're expecting a lot of themselves, and you expect a lot of them, and obviously they've kind of, their role has been diminished right now. Where are they at right now?
Both of them are guys that obviously that want to play. All players want to play, and the guys that had significant roles. But what they have done is embrace the roles that they do have right now, and they know that in the special teams, in the kicking game, that's a one play opportunity to change the course of the game. And they embrace the fact that if that's their role right now, at this point of the season, then they will do the best they can to make it happen for us. And, Tim had the 1 long punt return. Darius has had, like I said, some good kickoff returns, and we just got to get in position to block for them so we can utilize their speed and ability. So they've been great teammates.
Coach, back here, you had talked about the process being a little bit slow in your estimation. For a guy that is so optimistic, how frustrating has this process been with it being so slow?
It's disappointing, that it's not happening fast enough, The young players that you put in position to make things happen, there's a thing called experience. But you want them to do well, they want to do well, and you just got to believe in the process. So it starts from, from everything. From recruiting to, there's so many different things I could talk about if we had time. But the process is something that I know a lot of people can get, we want it to happen right now, but you got to do it the right way, and I believe that's what's going on. And we'll continue to keep working on this. Because that's all you can do. This profession is you can listen, you can hear, a lot of things can be said, but you got to believe in yourself and believe in your coaches and believe in the players and just keep edging forward.
One last question here for Jay.
Hey, Coach, one last thing defensively, the line. You know, you don't have Urban, who's got these big stats and pass deflections. Can you speak to what you saw from Wilkins and Mike Moore on the edge at that defensive end position based on what you've done with Jake?
You know, the two of them had to, particularly Mike Moore, because we moved Jake Schneider inside a little bit. He played a little inside, you know, but you can't replace Urban inside there. But he did a nice job. And then, you know, Dante, you know, true freshman playing, you know, got some snaps in there and was able to, you know, get involved in a couple of tackles and you know, a couple of knockbacks. So that's an area that we'll continue to keep trying to improve, because I don't know when Brent will be back. You know, Michael Moore and Dante and, you know, and others will have to continue to keep contributing to us up front.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Vince, who do we have?